Welcome everyone. We're going to begin our meeting today. And the first thing we want to do is welcome Brad, and I forgot your last name. Kowalski, who is our new representative for Auburn. So welcome, and we're glad to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask any of us.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And welcome to the public that's here today as well. So let me scroll down the beginning of our agenda, which is usually the minutes.
And if anybody didn't get a copy, there is one, maybe a couple left up front there.
Of the minutes, yeah.
Yep.
So,
It's excellent.
so first thing is the, as I said, are the minutes. There's a copy if you want to review them.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of 9/13.
Do you need a second? Mary Ann, second. Any comments on the discussion on the minutes? All those in favor then, raise your hand.
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
Okay. 6 of us and one
You see what we
abstention.
volunteered you for a few things today?
Then we have the consent agenda. Do we usually approve that? Yeah.
I move the consent agenda to be approved.
Mary Ann again, second.
The Glenn and Mary Ann show.
Any discussion on either of those? Financial report or meeting schedule?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
We are moving to 3 o'clock from now on.
But I had a question.
Yeah.
I brought up, probably a few meetings back, when we had all the stuff we were dealing with, and this fact that we're getting together enough to be able to keep up with the demands of, our roles here. But the idea of maybe meeting more regularly. I don't think it ever ended up on an agenda, so maybe that's something we should add to an agenda, I guess, in order to, maybe we should have thought of that 2 weeks ago and sent that to you, but just thought of that now.
Yeah.
So, is that something we just need to add to a future meeting?
Yeah, well, we
to
add it
discuss?
to our future next
Just-
meeting.
Just to see, what's
Um,
going on.
We'll
Sometimes
still decide whether we need to meet in
frequently,
December. Yeah, right.
sometimes
Yeah, thank you,
we
Alan.
don't meet often enough to be able to keep up with the demands of what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And maybe even a procedure that we could set them and then decide whether we needed it or not, or something like that.
Sure.
Sure.
I was gonna say, we could do it every other month as a workshop holding date in time. And then
Yeah.
if we had a workshop topic,
Yeah,
then we could have it
all right.
for a presentation or something that's more than trying to keep this to an hour.
Well, I like the holding date idea.
Yeah,
Because
'cause-
there's a real good chance we won't meet it every month.
Right.
But at least we know the date so everyone can
Yeah.
coordinate their schedules.
Yeah. So, sounds like maybe we need to discuss that right now, since it is in the 2024 meeting schedule is in the consent agenda.
That's right.
Do you need a motion on the table to discuss it, or?
Well, you got a motion and a second on the table to approve the consent agenda. Do you want to come out of that and then bring that up as a discussion?
Yeah.
Do
So
we have-
we need a
Why don't we
motion?
just take it up under other business?
We could.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll just do that. So, right now, all in favor of
we might as
approval
well
of the
do that.
consent agenda? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Today we have time for public comment right now. Is there anyone from the public?
Just listening.
Okay. So, thank you for showing up. We appreciate it. Next is the water quality and watershed report from Erica.
So I've included in your packets the usual turbidity graph, temperature graph, and we have fecal coliform data and total phosphorus, orthophosphorus data. Those are the usual rundowns for in the lake and in the tributaries. I wanted to mention, this is also in the report, but that I've had a couple meetings with Ty and Bond to plan out the stream restoration for First Brook, which drains directly into the lake. So it starts over behind Wallingford's, comes under Route 4, comes down behind, I know it is the Fenderson's property, but in that area, it comes under Lake Shore Drive and right into the lake. And for years now, we've seen elevated phosphorus numbers coming into the lake there. So this was a proposal for work that came out a couple of years ago, and we're actually going to be implementing it. The plan is for 2024. So they're doing the design of restoring that stream this year. They've already got preliminary plans that I've seen, and then there is going to be permitting with DEP and local permitting too. So that will be worked on this winter with the idea for construction on restoring that stream. Probably next spring, summer, once we get out of the really wet season of spring. It'll be better if it's a little bit drier. So just to bring that to your attention, we're moving that forward. We're still working with Ken Wagner for different alternative options for dealing with phosphorus loading into the lake, whether that's doing work in the basin, whether that's more alum treatments. He and Jed Jesperson of Ecological Instincts have been looking at all of our data and are going to come up with some options for us specifically for that goal of reducing phosphorus in the lake. He had mentioned possibly dosing alum when we get large rain events, so that's something that, you know, that wasn't part of our watershed management plan. That's more specifically the kind of work that he does. He's really an expert on that. So is that a viable option for us? You know, so they're looking into that. We should have a finalized report this winter from them, so I'll be able to hopefully share that with you guys if we have a January meeting, if not February meeting. And just current lake conditions, just so you know, the bottom of the lake is anoxic right now, so without oxygen, which is not unusual for this time of year. You get all of the algae growth in the spring, summer, fall, that dies off in the fall and winter. As that drops down to the bottom and decomposes, it uses up oxygen. So that's not unusual, but we are seeing no oxygen further off of the bottom than we typically do.
Do you know how high up?
Yes, getting upwards to like 18
Meters?
Yeah, 18 meters exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
so
Yeah, it's high.
that's not what we've seen in the last several years. Again, it's not, we lose oxygen at the bottom of the lake this time of year every year, but it is higher than what we've seen in more recent years. That being said, lake turnover happens in the fall, it happens in the spring, and you start to see oxygen loss at the bottom typically before you see the whole lake turnover and mix, which is good because that then redistributes oxygen through the whole lake. So the concern with losing oxygen on the bottom is, you know, if it's all the way down to the bottom of the lake, that's not so bad. If it starts to come up towards the middle of the lake, that's when you can see fish dying off and see effects like that. We're not seeing that, and it's really late in the season. We're probably not going to. The whole lake will mix. Oxygen will go from the bottom to the top again, or from the top down to the bottom this time of year. So we should be okay. But it's just, when you have oxygen loss at the bottom of the lake, it actually can release phosphorus that's normally bound up with other metals. So when you lose oxygen, all of a sudden that phosphorus becomes available and free. So that's the problem, and then you can see impacts from that in the following year. Unfortunately, there's no crystal ball, so we know that's happening now, but we can't say for sure X, Y, and Z are going to happen next year. But we're keeping an eye on it, so lake turnover should be soon. When that happens, our lab staff, they go out and they sample the lake one more time for the year, and then they're usually done with in-lake sampling. Because typically shortly after this, you know, it's too cold and we'll have ice on, hopefully. I mean, it's not safe. So that will wrap up their sampling. I did get more phosphorus results for tributaries into the lake after I put this together, so I'll have that update for you next meeting as well. Some of the sites were high after a big rain event in September. Again, there's some of the sites that we've known are high with phosphorus coming into the lake, so it's not a surprise, it's just they're even more elevated than what we're used to seeing because of those big rainstorms, unfortunately. I think that's all my notes for the water quality and watershed, unless anybody has questions.
Which tributaries in particular did you notice in September were the highest?
So the outlet of the, what we're calling First Brook, so the Blanchard Pond, First Brook, right into under Lake Shore Drive, Townsend Brook, and then the site that we call 5A is off of Spring Road.
Yeah.
So that's been known to be problematic too in the past, so those were high. And then also at the bottom of the lake, we saw higher phosphorus because there's no oxygen, and
Yeah.
that's getting released now.
Did, question on the water quality, did we ever look at, Alan's concern, the Little Wilson Pond, there was some sort of,
Yes.
is it, you think it's gonna be a pollution concern that we should,
I'm gonna give an update on
Yes,
that.
we
So
got,
good.
yep, we have an update on that, yep.
So was there something different, like was there more algae that could have caused the conditions to be as increased as it is now with the anoxic? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
was there anything abnormal that?
So it was, we talk about that all the time, like all of us who work at the plant, like what is going on? There's so many factors. So it was an unusually wet spring and summer, so we had more rainfall than normal. That kept the lake cooler, but we know that brought in more nutrients. So sometimes when you have those higher temperatures, it's just really conducive to a lot of algae growth, like surface temperatures. We didn't get that. It's, you know, it wasn't, 90 and sunny all summer, it was really rainy, but because of all that influx of water, we think that brought in an extra, we know it did, that brought in excess nutrients, and that's just food for growth for algae. So we're thinking maybe that's why. That's our best guess.
If we got all that rain with warm temperatures,
Right.
we'd be in a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah.
Is Ken looking at 5A and Townsend's as well as? in
Yes,
studies?
yes, I wish I had that in front of me, but yes, he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Other questions for Erica? All right. We'll move on to the staff report. Mike?
All right, so as Dan was asking, back in October, Erica was working really hard with the town of Turner, the Fortin Construction Group, and working with Alan to try to schedule a site meeting to go look at the retention pond at Wilson Bluffs. As it turned out, I was the only one able to go, but I did go and meet with a representative of Fortin Construction. We went down to the retention pond. We basically found four issues with the pond. There's a fracture in the ledge or the banking of the pond, so the side slopes of the pond. There's an outlet that was manufactured and designed into the pond, so when the water level comes up, it goes out the outlet. Well, the fracture or the break in the pond bank is allowing the water to escape and not go out the outlet. The outlet of the pond is armored with riprap and large rock to prevent erosion at the outlet. The fracture is not. Those large rain events that we had this summer, there was some significant erosion that occurred where that water is leaving the pond premature of the outlet.
And that was happening before you even had those rain events.
Right.
I was up there early spring, and there was already a lot of water that was flowing right down. Into
But it was clear that it got exasperated by the high rain. You could see, when I was there in October, you could see fresh, this is just, it's getting carved deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
If you've ever been to this site, this retention pond is probably 150 feet to 200 feet in elevation higher than Little Wilson Pond, yet it's only, vertical distance wise, only 100 feet away from the pond. So it's very steep slope. It's, so if you're getting some erosion that's occurring, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. So that's kind of number one issue, that side slope of the pond needs to be repaired. That erosion that occurred needs to be stabilized so it doesn't continue. Issue number two, the vegetation around the pond has not been maintained. So just simple mowing around the pond. I haven't been to that site. Kevin and I went there for a site inspection. I'd say probably 4 years ago was the last time I went with Kevin. When I went there in October, where's the pond? It's trees have grown up, the brush, the thorn bushes. It's kind of hidden down in there now. It's all grown up. So now if you need to go in there and do maintenance around the pond, you now, instead of just going over mowed grass, you need to cut trees and, navigate that. So that should be maintained and mowed. So that was issue kind of number 2. Number 3, somebody, illegal dumping, had gone down in there and backed a sizable truck. I would say 2 to 3 cords of firewood was dumped into the pond. They're rounds of wood. It wasn't split, but it was cut firewood. So that's dumped into the pond. It's taking up, space. The pond's ability to take in influxes of water, to slow the flow of water down, and then to release it over time. That's the function of a retention pond. If you take away the volume of the pond by putting firewood in there, obviously everybody knows that's not a good thing, but that needs to be cleaned out. The third thing is the pond has never been dredged. I don't know, when was that? Do you know right offhand when that was put in?
2006.
So you're pushing 20 years. The pond has been in. To my knowledge, it's never been dredged. The vegetation that's growing up in the pond, again, is taking up the capacity of the pond. So it's aggravating those big storms that we get if the pond doesn't have the capacity that it used to. The drain's not working properly. All these things are working against it, and you're getting erosion. So the big crux was, the guy that I met with from Fortin, he did not want to volunteer. He's like, well, we're just trying to build a house. We don't really want to do all these things, and then, this is kind of the discussion that we had. I sent Erica a summary of the things that I found. She kind of forwarded that to the town and to Fortin, and they kind of gave some pushback on, the same kind of things. Well, who's going to do it? Well, we're sending it to you. That's why we're sending it. It would appear no homeowners association was ever formed as part of this subdivision, like it was outlined to be done. So there's no homeowners association to receive this. Last week, I put all of these comments into a letter, and I sent a letter to Fortin Construction. They did receive that, Mark Fortin, and he basically said that they'll be taking care of this. So that was great news.
Yep.
I did tell him, I think I responded to his reply to me, that will please keep Erica in the loop with your schedule, because we want to be a part of that and inspect the work that they do and make sure that gets
So Mike,
repaired.
does he understand, it seems like I've been following all the chain emails here, but he understands now, Mark Fortin, what work needs to be done.
I outlined that in the letter.
He kept a question in that.
Right, he was questioning Erica. Erica would tell him what I saw and what I said, and then he's like, well, this is what you said before. How do I know that's what I need to do?
Because I said so.
She just said what needs to be done. So I basically took everything that was in the email. I just put it, you need to, this is wrong, that's wrong.
Fix it.
All of this needs to be fixed.
Now, but was Fortin the original developer?
Yes.
Yes.
And the only developer.
Yes.
Yes.
Then,
Oh.
oh wow.
And so
Done.
all of the
Move on.
legal, recorded language states that a
There.
homeowners association is to be formed. But if it is not, or in the interim before it is, Fortin Construction is responsible.
Yeah.
So they're on the hook. And the town of Turner, I did reach out to them, and their take was they didn't want to intervene with this because they don't want to have to continually be taking on the maintenance for that development.
So who is responsible for
So
taking care of the
Fortin
maintenance
is.
moving forward?
Fortin is,
So forever
yeah,
and
because
ever.
they,
Well, until a homeowners.
Association is
right, because they
And I
never
bet they
formed a
get one
homeowners
formed now.
I
association.
bet you they're going to now.
Right,
Exactly.
Yeah, that
right,
Fortin-
so they are on the hook.
The day of the inspection, they had 2 excavators sitting there because they were building the last house
The last house down.
while I was
is
there.
right
So
next
now's
to
the
this
opportunity,
pond.
while you're mobilized, you're there to do site work, get this taken care of.
Yeah.
So, So-
Is it not their town's responsibility to at least periodically inspect it?
The reports are sent to us.
So we
All of a
had,
sudden,
there was a
right.
site inspection agreement, actually, when this development was put together, that the commission would inspect.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
That was a good move.
yeah.
well, we were doing inspections. Like I said, I'd been to at least 2 in the past.
Yeah.
The last 3 to 4 years, I haven't been out there.
Now that I know about it, I didn't know
Yeah, well,
about
now
it
we
before
can
this,
put
but
it
now that
on
I know, we can put it on schedule and,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Good.
okay. Well,
So that's that update. The next thing I just wanted to keep you all informed of, so next week, it's a week early for us, the Auburn Water District's having their regular trustee meeting. It's moved up a week so that it's not the same week as Thanksgiving week. So instead of the third Wednesday, it's the second, just for the month of November. We're going to have a public hearing at our regular water trustee meeting where we're going to be looking to amend the bylaws for the protection of Lake Auburn that specifically describe the Zone 1 protection area. And we're also going to be discussing and showing a new watershed boundary map as approved by the Maine Drinking Water Program and what we've all been working on for the past several months. So we're going to go into our regular trustee meeting, open up public hearing in between old business and new business, close public hearing, and then there will be, discussion and votes in the regular trustee meeting to move all that stuff forward. The amendment to the language in the bylaws is because right now the Zone 1 protection area goes from the edge of the lake to the nearest roadway, which right now is consistent with the watershed boundary. Mm-hmm. But you're moving the watershed boundary closer to the lake, so the language changes to the nearest roadway or watershed boundary, whatever's closer. So the map will now, there's not a contradiction of language and physical boundaries. So that's been vetted through the whole legal process, and I know we've been involved in that, but that's going to be occurring next week. So
Mike, did they ever vote you in as a co-clerk here?
that's later on in the agenda.
Okay, sorry.
But
I'm just saying you're bored talking about the
If
board.
if we want
Good,
to, so I can
Kevin
bring
was like,
I can bring that up now. It's under old business D.
Just a quick question on the POLA.
Yep.
Can we get it on the agenda? I know Eric and I went back and forth a few times. What seems to be holding up the Southern Link Trail on LawPEC properties is the fact that you can't have development. And I think the spirit of the Southern Link Trail, and we can talk about that under that, is to allow that path that was started out by Route 4. It's beautiful. It's 8 feet wide. It's coming through. If we can get that through legal on the Auburn Water District, so we can also at some point amend the POLA to allow the Southern Link Trail, I think that would be a goal of a lot of people in this room that were giving the nod for, yes, let's get this trail going.
I think that's all doable, but not doable by next Wednesday.
Oh, I know. But we're on the subject, so...
There's been a lot of legal review over this language amendment that we're going to be making next week. Certainly, after the vote is taken on this, you're a trustee, and I don't think you would find support to work on that.
Yeah.
It's just...
I just want to ensure that, and then we can bring it up under the trail part, that we still have the support of the committee, to move that plan forward, so, the commission.
Well, I would want to be sure that any language or what is happening there is consistent with protecting the lake. So if we bring a lot of people onto that Southern Link Trail, is there going to be concern regarding swimming in the area that there's no boating or any access? So I want that to be, discussed.
Sure.
So that I'm clear about.
We'd probably do a lot like Spring Road, and then we can even put fences up if we needed to, if there are violations to... But Spring Road has been part of the restricted area and the unrestricted area for decades, and
Yeah.
other than me seeing occasional dog in the water and letting them know, hey, the dog needs to come out of the water, there's only been a few instances of swimming that we know of and reported to the police. So
We do have erosion problems though off of Spring Road.
we
that
do.
are
It's a
affecting
dirt
the lake.
road, which would be completely different than the Southern Link Trail.
In what way?
Well, it'll be paved, it'll be engineered, there'll be culverts and retention drainage built from the beginning,
So
in
whole
the
Southern
right
Link
way.
will be paved?
What's that?
The whole.
Yeah, so if you're, well, that's the plan. If you look at Route 4, where the boat launch is,
Yeah.
you can park at Parcel 4, and Al and I did this a couple days ago, and we walked the 8-foot path into the boat launch area, and then from there we just continue on. We can do, for instance, we could do in the next 3-4 years to Central Maine Community College. That would be just LawPec land, Auburn Water District, City of Lewiston, outside the gate. CM's totally on board with that. And that would connect the school to the boat launch area. And then there's already trails that go to St. Dom's, and they're already skiing it, snowshoeing it. And there's already existing trails that go all the way to Park Avenue. So, yeah, it would be a big, eyes and ears for Lake Auburn.
Great, so I put that, we'll bring that up at our next agenda meeting in case there's something to report.
Of course,
from the
yeah.
Water District. Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more, Mike? Oh, you were.
I mean, well, I can bring up the clerk's thing under the
Sure.
regular old business if you want.
Yeah,
But that's all I had for staff report.
okay. Kevin, do you have anything on your staff report? Erica? Do you have anything?
Yes, so there is a City of Auburn Planning Board meeting next Tuesday, the 14th. And as of right before this meeting, the agenda isn't up for that yet, but they had a few individual supporting documents posted already. So I don't know what the finalized agenda is going to be. But it looks like the first thing that they're going to be talking about are text changes to the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. So I just wanted to just make you guys aware that, one, these text changes are on the agenda. And I'm not going to go through all the nitty-gritty of it, but basically some of the highlights of those text changes to the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District are limiting or prohibiting certain agricultural uses in the watershed. Let's see, restricting new dwelling units are prohibited in the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. They're increasing the agricultural buffer strip from 50 feet to 100 feet. Prohibiting any sludge or manure disposal in the watershed. For subsurface wastewater, septic systems, there's a lot of text changes in there, but basically disposal fields are prohibited on sites with less than 12 inches to the limiting horizon. And they go further to talk about certain types of soils needing a curtain drain. And specifically when it comes to the septic systems, one of the text amendments is commencing July 1st, 2024, the commission or its designee shall have the right to inspect all private subsurface wastewater disposal systems in the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District every 5 years or at the time that a property is sold, whichever is sooner. The Auburn Water District will also have the right to inspect subsurface wastewater disposal systems as well. So these are just a few of the text amendments but those are really the key ones that impact us as the commission or impact the watershed overlay district. So they all impact that. Some of the updates are just semantics. But those are going to be on the planning board agenda again for next Tuesday. It's listed as a text amendment. I don't know if that's going to be as a public hearing or, if they're voting on that during this meeting, I'm not sure yet. That's not provided yet. It says public hearing text amendment, but again, I want to wait till the final version of that comes out. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Also at that meeting, it's a chock-full meeting, they are looking at changes to, there's rural residential zone, which basically follows some of the major roadways in the watershed, and that zoning is 1 residence per 1 acre, and most of those areas they're looking at changing to low-density country residential, which is 1 residence to 3 acres, so that actually helps limit development. Which one of their text changes says no new dwellings in that watershed overlay district anyways, but there are areas that applies to that are outside the watershed for rural residential. One of the other things that's on their list is the Lake Auburn watershed boundary. So Mike, I think you had provided this to them, a copy of that ad hoc the letter from the ad hoc group that has Auburn Water, Lewiston Water, Commission, Auburn Water District. I think I got them all. Everybody is on. Members from each of those groups are on this committee, which is, and the city of Auburn, and Alan, and Tracy, and
Don't get out.
and Rick, and there's several people who are on there. So basically, that group had worked on a lot of these text amendments to have a consensus on it. Worked on agreeing on the new watershed boundary that drinking water program approved. So the city is looking at that new watershed boundary based on what drinking water program approved. And really that's moving that line down in the Grease Lawn pit area. So that is on their agenda as well. And lastly, for watershed, there is a proposal to change the zoning of the Grace Lawn pit area from agriculture and resource protection to general business zoning. So as we know, the owner of that property is looking at developing that area where it's in ag and resource protection. That's not really doable. It would need to be a general business or commercial. So they're looking at that zoning change as well. I think that's it. It's a big meeting, and there's a lot of pieces to it that have been worked on for the last couple of years now, really, especially with the text amendments for the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. And I think that that's in a good place now. All parties involved have been working together, and I think are comfortable with that now going forward.
Erica, you're comfortable with it going forward as well, or is there any tweaking that you would like to see, or?
I kind of stay out of that.
Okay.
I mean, I follow it.
But I mean, as far as water quality, we're doing the right thing, right? Okay, that's another loaded question. All right. That's why we're here for it all.
Yeah, you are. And that's all I had for my staff report.
So, the text amendment that you saw, is that you downloaded or got that from the planning board?
Yes. Yep. So they
Agenda, or-
they had that part posted. This is kind of a snippet of what they have. So they have the text amendments posted already. So that's where I grabbed that.
Okay.
Yep.
Does anyone have any comments or questions about that? Okay. Old business will be next. First thing on there is reports from the ad hoc committee trails.
Pretty much said everything, but I didn't give a chance for Alan to speak, if you wanted to add anything, or?
Anything, Alan?
No, I mean, I think it's just keeping the vision alive. There's
Okay.
a lot of other things that are in the works, rezoning and everything, but just making sure that I think it's a great idea, and I understand it seems a little long-term at this point as far as the completion of this thing, but it's a beautiful area. I had never been out in that part of the lake before, it's really it's a beautiful, beautiful area. And there's enough, it wouldn't take a tremendous amount of work to actually make a trail through there, because, there are trees, of course, but there's an area where you could easily make an 8-foot trail that can connect right to CMCC, which would be a beautiful, beautiful area for people to be able to walk.
If the commission would like to arrange for a tour, just a walking tour, it'd be about a half hour from the boat launch area, just to see the initial part where we could have the gateway of it, Parking exists already. It's just the only thing. We walked through there. What did we pick up? Less than a handful of garbage. Because people have been poaching the area to go fishing, and it's such a beautiful area along the shoreline. It's around the fence there.
Well, we also thought about maybe trying to come up with another name for the trail.
Oh, other than Southern Link Trail.
Southern Link Trail, maybe having a different.
I first said drinking water trail, but then no wait. People be like, let's go piss in the drinking water, It's like, no, forget that. But the commission could really have some fun with that one, having a naming like you guys do the photography and stuff like that. All up for discussion. Oh, and one funding bit, Lake Auburn Watershed Neighborhood Association, which is a 501c3, which had sold the community center to the city of Auburn, has already $10,000 in donations towards this trail. So if we can think about budgeting a little bit of trail money. I mean, just
Have you taken a look at what we
even $5,000
I guess.
would be, because everyone's throwing in $5,000, and we're going to get a bunch more people throwing the $5,000, like AvCog $5,000. I can see it now, just everyone throwing in. Boom! All of a sudden, you got $50,000 to do some work and just make it a winter trail initially.
I think your biggest hurdle is developing the design of the trail
Yeah.
and how it's not going to impact water quality. Because everything you said before earlier in this meeting was spot on. You got to have all that stuff. So how do you outline that you do that stuff, and how do you do that with that topography in that area where you want to put the trail? If you could have that designed so it doesn't impact water quality, the rest of the stuff would be smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Getting the bylaws amended, but it's hard to amend the bylaws without seeing that. Because how
Spend the money and pray.
you got to
Yeah.
make, if you can't design it to be
Right. It'll be
conducive to
spending money
water
for you.
quality, then how would you ever get it approved if it's not going to protect water
Right,
quality?
no, I get it, but
Right.
you have to spend the money.
Have you had a
Right,
chance
change
to
some.
look at the engineering detail of the Southern Link Trail?
There is no engineering detail. It says the first step would be to design the trail.
Right.
Right.
It gave some suggestions, it gave some ideas, but it said this needs to be designed.
And how long a trail?
Well, the initial part would be a mile and a half, 2 miles. So that's what I'm saying. If you do it in segments, since it's already started along Route 4, if you do it in segments, it's much easier to be tackled.
What's the planning budget going to cost to figure on a mile of trail?
For a winter trail or for a year-round?
Year-round trail.
Yeah, well, that's. But a winter trail is much different. When people are skiing and snowshoeing and fat biking, there's not a lot of invasive things going on. You're not bringing in lots of gravel. In places you can bring in crushed rock. It's not going to erode. The crushed rock will stay on place because you put in the size crushed rock that needs to be put in, because it gets to walking crushed rock versus riprap, which is going to hold back a flattened area. I mean, these are all things that we can do in a winter trail and not be swamped by some $25,000, $30,000 engineering update for a mile and a half, 2 miles, the
Well, I
first
thought
section.
you just told me it was going to be all paved.
Well, that's the concept when they did the Southern Link Trail.
Design that's finalized.
To design a mile of trail, my rough off the cuff would be $100,000
Yeah.
to design a mile of trail.
So it's a recreational trail grant.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gather money to.
But you get that design, and then you have those protections in there, and it passes the test with everybody. The rest of the stuff's easy to get through. I can't see why anybody would argue. If
So
it was
the
designed
RTP
properly-
folks would only need some sort of perpetual or at least 20-year commitment that we could put a trail. So LawPIC would only have to come up with a letter of intent saying, yeah, we will authorize this after the engineering is complete. And we'll get a grant for the engineering. Next steps. We'll find out when the deadline is.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. Next is the Watershed Management Plan presentation.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had just put a brief presentation together just to give an overview of it.
You might have to turn.
Looks like the TV
back
turned
on.
off.
So use the remote, the red button, and point it to the red button on the left.
Yep.
There you go.
That's a cool place.
Good, now try the mouse.
Exactly.
Oh,
So this
oh,
is
do you have to
the-
log back in?
This is the
Right,
plan I
it's right
got.
on the sheet, actually.
This is the plan I got to share with my Watershed towns. Super secret is on paper.
not
Christmas
realize
girl.
I'll ever buy.
Is there a clicker here?
Clicker, oh, to advance the
What-
slides.
yeah. It's okay if there's not.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I can, whoops.
I don't think there's that there.
That one. That little left.
Go to slideshow.
I think that should do it.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
The music?
No, no music, there's no
Get some
animation.
James Taylor on my phone.
That license?
No.
No, I didn't see him sing that.
No, I don't have anything fancy.
Uh,
So we hired CDM Smith last year, 2022, to do a watershed management plan update for us. The last one was done in 2013, so that was by CEI. They were a different consultant. But it had been 10 years, well, this year 10 years, since an update had been done, and it was time. It's kind of good practice to update those documents every 10 years. And it's a huge document, you know, I shared it with you guys, but I just wanted to give you some highlights of it. So the purpose of it is to really look for sources of pollution in the watershed, right? So we say identify sources of non-point source pollution. So basically that means if you have a point source of pollution, you've got a pipe coming out of the building, it's discharging directly into the lake or the river or whatever, right? So that's a point source.
Salt.
Yeah, and if you can fix that, you have, you know, pretty good results. So the non-point source are, you know, agricultural forms, septic systems. It's like a development. It's a culmination of all these small things that cumulatively have an impact on your water quality. So you can identify some of those, and you can, you know, make improvements to those. It's just not going to one specific source. So this plan identified those. So you find your sources, and then you identify what are the best management practices or VMPs to fix those problem areas. So you look at structural, which can be culvert improvements, rip wrapping, you know, ditching, that type of thing. Non-structural can be maybe your farmers change their land use practices, that type of thing. And then, so you find your sources, you come up with solutions, best management practices, and then you need an implementation schedule, right? So you can have all of these things identified, but you need a plan. And so this really is going to look at a roughly 10-year implementation schedule for going out and fixing some of these issues. And this is just a graphic from the Watershed Management Plan. So CDM Smith, I think it was last fall, I went out for a couple days with one of their engineers, and they looked at, we basically did a tour around the watershed, and what this graph is showing is that a lot of the impacts are coming from our roadways, which we knew that. I mean, that's a source of runoff. There's, you know, some failing infrastructure that we know of for culverts, that type of thing. So you have municipal roads, state roads. Sorry. You know, there's also logging and agriculture that are in there. But really you're looking at impacts of municipal and public and state roads. And this is just a different way of looking at that. So you have your high impact, medium impact, or low impact to the water quality of Lake Auburn and its tributaries. So you're seeing roadways, again, agriculture and logging are on there too, but the biggest impact here is from roadways. And so we found those issues in the watershed, and then what do you do about it, right? So these are the goals that CDM Smith outlined for us, again, over a roughly 10-year plan. So you figure out what your best management practices are. With the goal here is to reduce phosphorus in the lake. That's the overarching goal, because that gives us most of our issues in water quality. By doing that, by reducing phosphorus, you're going to reduce the frequency of algae blooms. And again, you have your phosphorus input, you have algae growth, that dies off, that uses up the oxygen in the bottom, which is not good, you can have fish kills. But also, certain types of algae is toxic. So cyanobacteria, those are your blue-green algae. We haven't had that to the point of where it's a water quality concern for public safety and drinking water, but we obviously don't want it to get to that point. They recommended continuing to collect water quality data, which we fully intend to do. We have staff that go out in the lake every week. They try to get the tributaries for storm events or every other week. So we continue, we're planning to do that. And then they also recommended enhancing Auburn Water and Lewiston Water's watershed protection program to prevent impact of new phosphorus sources. So that's pretty general, pretty vague, but I think we're working towards that even with the city of Auburn and some of their ordinance text changes too. So those are the goals, and then how do you actually accomplish those? Implement your best management practices over the 10-year plan, right? So go out and work with farmers, work with agriculture, fix culverts, fix ditching, fix, if you have impervious areas that can be put back to a natural state, great, try and do those things. Continue to monitor for water quality data and prevent increases in external phosphorus. So this says through strong watershed protection program and strategic land purchases. So I know that the commission, when we get property owners who are interested in selling to us, or we see different properties in the watershed that are up for sale that might be good for us to have to prevent development, they recommend continuing to do that. Working with agricultural landowners to reduce phosphorus too. A couple other action items. Continue strong public education program to inform watershed residents of the sensitive nature of Lake Auburn. So that's continuing our public outreach, education, schools, community groups, whatever it may be, to really try to make that connection that this is it's a nice resource for recreation, but it's also your public drinking water source. Working with the other municipalities in the watershed, we've talked about that, that's definitely a goal, and an action that we could take that we can work more on. And they also said maintain the algicide and alum permits, which we just got a permit renewal from Maine DEP, so we're all set with that. And that's good for 5 years. So if we needed to do an algicide or alum treatment next year, we'd be okay. And lastly in here, I don't expect you to read this, but this is how they broke out their management measures. Again, it's over a 10-year timeline, and these are the high priorities. So they broke it out by section of watershed. So you have upper watershed, the basin area. They have structural, non-structural BMPs, and then a cost. So this is spelled out for each part of the watershed. They broke it out by the basin, Spring Road, Lakeshore Drive, Townsend Brook, upper watershed, Route 4, and then kind of the all watershed lands, forestry, and Lake Auburn. And these are looking at mostly non-structural for here, and those don't include a cost for this section, but this is in the plan. Some more management measures that they listed, pilot testing for an aluminum feed system. That's what I mentioned, is that we're working with Ken Wagner, and that's one of the proposals he might have for us is, do we just dose the lake with alum when we get high rain events? Is it based on precipitation? Is that going to capture some of these high phosphorus loads that are coming in with these big storm events that we're seeing more and more of? The Route 4 vortex separators, so those are in catch basins along Route 4, just cleaning those out, maintaining those, that's going to help with water quality. They recommend that the commission should continue to strategically purchase land. They recommended that it should continue the moratorium on logging of commission-owned land until the lake has better water quality. And Auburn Water, Lewiston Water should study an intake extension, which they're doing, and I think that's going to continue into next year, correct me if I'm wrong, and maintaining that algicide and alum permit.
Why is there a profit or in the logging line in the budget for 2024 and 2023? Are we
Oh, it's
still
not
selling?
logging, it's under forestry, so if that's any like property boundary markings that we have, like that came up this year, there was a discrepancy between one of the properties that we owned and a butter who wanted to log her lot, so we needed to have a boundary survey done. That's what it's for.
They're expenses, not.
Oh, those are expensive.
Yeah,
not
that's not,
Oh, okay, I thought they were on the revenue line.
other management measures, ditch and culvert inspections, street sweeping, septic system inspections, which if that goes through Auburn's planning board and city council changes for the watershed overlay district, we'll have the right to do that. And again, prohibiting certain land uses in the watershed overlay district, which includes some agriculture, sludge disposal, all of that. That's all up to be discussed at planning board next week. And adding construction site and any logging erosion controls, not just for logging that we might be doing in the future, for other logging operations too.
Who would be doing the ditch and culvert inspections?
So we could have like Auburn Water or Lewiston Water staff maybe do that. I mean, they do some of the work for us when we need improvements like along Spring Road and whatnot. they'll do that for us, but I don't know, I'd have to go back and see if they actually recommended who would be doing that.
Yeah, I would be interested to know, not just for that specifically, but for some of these actions, like who's gonna be doing it and
Yeah,
we should be doing it regularly.
okay, I
So-
have the plan, but I can look that up, and kind of spell that out if that's
Yeah.
something that we need to include for going forward. And this is just the timeline, so 2023 is right here, all the way over to 2033. Again, by different areas in the watershed, the basin, Spring Road, Lakeshore Drive. This gets into the priority, BMPs are in blue, and that's on the last slide, but they say, designate who is this being implemented by, so who is this being done by, and then funding sources.
Quick question on the agricultural part. I know that's going to limit sludge spreading and stuff like that for those hay crops, but we also have apples and marijuana growing. How do we limit the chemicals that are going into these areas?
So like fertilizers or pesticides, or
Well,
like,
There's all these chemical tanks that's not far from my property.
oh, so like chemical storage, or?
Well, what they do is when they irrigate, they mix a certain blend of
It's a
fertilizer.
It's a fertilizer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if bugs eat it. See, these are all
Right, I
things.
think-
So, but
Right,
apples
you're talking
have
about
bugs.
apples,
So,
they must.
So like a pesticide.
so is there something we can ensure that we can also at least have an education program for these? There's only probably 5 or 6 growers in the Lake Auburn watershed. I mean, I know of 3 apples, 1 marijuana, and lots of hay fields. But other than that, I mean, people can, they have acreage, so they can grow whatever they want. So even the homeowners can realize, hey, if you're using this type of chemical and it's applied at this certain time, versus just throw that on there, that's going to make the grass green,
Yeah, so I can look through this and see if they specifically address that, because I don't know off the top of my head. And I would need to look at the City of Auburn's ordinance suggested text amendments too, to see if they address that, because I didn't see that come up before. So
Are
I
you
don't know.
planning to go to the meeting or?
Next Wednesday?
Next
I can-
Tuesday.
Sorry, next Tuesday, if I can. Yes.
But to Dan's point, it seems to me that even if it's not in these text amendments, then it's something that we could ask to be
Yeah.
done.
Yep.
Whether it's CDM says it or not, if we think this is a concern.
And if it's bad enough, Water District can make a rule.
Right, so, I agree that we need to think about education of the actual homeowners or, some of these other
Good point.
processors.
Yeah, no, I think too, when we talk later about the educator, is, kind of getting to that commercial side of things and understanding it and talking with them and understanding more and, coming back with some ideas that kind of relate to the commercial side of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with, if there are, what the restrictions.
Yeah, are there
Are.
already restrictions in
What's
the
Right,
ag
and
zone?
that's, and I don't know, and then you have the Lake
Auburn.
Auburn overlay on a lot of the
You
ag
can't
zone,
just
so.
do, I don't know, whatever
Yeah,
you want, but.
I know that in the Lake Auburn watershed overlay, like, none of the agricultural practices can impact water quality. It's pretty broad. So that might fall under that, any spraying like that, if you're catching that from water quality sampling, then they can't be
But
doing that.
are they aware of that?
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good question.
And are
Good
they following
educational
it?
piece, yeah.
And following it.
Right.
Exactly.
That marijuana operation's huge, that's near Dan's
Yeah, that's what
property.
Dan
It's
was
pretty
gonna
good.
ask.
They scaled down this year. They had so much crop from a years prior that they're running a refrigeration unit 24/7 because they couldn't release it in the market without giving it away. So that in itself might kill some of these growers. But still, I mean, so they have a limited crop. They harvested, they're rolling out with tons of product.
Yeah, that is a newer concern for this area too, within the last couple of years mostly, right?
Yeah, since they made it legal.
Those plants go to the bathroom.
Right.
It's better than cows. So this is just looking at kind of a schedule of the milestones again for different areas and prices, and then breaking out, you know, the blue are the priorities, the gray are conditional, and then any green is our additional BMPs, and they list out, you know, who would be implementing this? The commission, Auburn Water, Lucent Water, DOT private, potential funding sources, the commission, for water utilities, 319 grants, drinking water program grants, that type of thing. So that's kind of an overview of the plan and what we'll be using going forward for planning out projects in several years to come. I do want to say for 2024, because that Blanchard Pond project that I talked about, First Brook coming out of, starts at Blanchard Pond, it comes down as a stream, we call that First Brook. I'm working with Ty and Bond on that. That's pretty expensive, so that's the project that I have planned out for 2024, and then getting to 2025 is when we'll start probably using this as a framework to work off of for projects. So that's an overview of how that document came to be, what's in it. It has goals, it has an implementation plan, implementation schedule, different action items that we can take. Any questions on that? It is just an overview. There's a lot of data review that went behind this. So I don't feel like that's necessary to get into.
So I can tell the towns I represent, they got a couple more years before they're gonna get bugged.
Sorry?
The towns have a few more years before they're gonna get anything changed really in the upper watershed.
If we choose to go that route. We don't have to, but yeah, I think that's actually realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been hearing a lot of rumors, so they've just been asking.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to get them.
All right, we can have
Moving in the right
conversations.
direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can have the conversations and meetings and preempt that.
Buck would be easy, just take the one from North Pond and take them for what it's.
Any other questions on that? If you think of anything, shoot me a message. I'm happy to talk about it more, but that's what we're going to be working off of.
Cool.
I think that was my last one. Yeah.
That's all I had for sharing up here too.
Thank you, Erica. The next on our agenda is the Auburn Water District City of Lewiston LawPac Ad Hoc Committee update from Mike.
Well, there isn't any action of the committee. We have not met in the last month. The last time we did meet, we did sign that memo that I forwarded it off to everybody. One action the Auburn Water District has taken, we did send that memo and the text amendments along with the City of Auburn's schedule of their planning board and city council meetings for the remainder of the year to the main drinking water program to let them be aware of pending changes and give them the opportunity to impart thoughts on that. Again, the water district at our last trustee meeting, we, upon the recommendation of this commission to the water district, we worked through those. We feel like we have everything in place that is going to protect the lake and meet the goals of everyone at the table. So that's what we've done with that. So as far as the committee goes, there has been no action.
And do you anticipate the committees continuing forward?
Yeah, there's more work to be done. As we just referenced, the upper watershed towns, that was part of the recommendation from the commission, was to continue with these changes into those towns. The committee basically just felt that it was important to first get them implemented in Auburn before you can then tell the other upper watershed towns to move forward. I do anticipate us having another meeting here, probably not the end of November, but maybe in December, to talk about those next steps and keeping this moving. So there's just been a lot going on the last month or so that just haven't been able to fit it in.
I was just wondering because Rick was one of our representatives, and he was voted out of the council, which won't take effect till January. So I assume there will be a new
The
counselor
myself, but
that will be assigned, so I didn't know whether any action needs to be taken prior to that in terms of this committee, but it's probably okay.
There won't be another meeting,
Well,
before
Mike
that, will
said
there?
there might be.
Well,
one
maybe
December.
the first or second week of December, we'd get back
Oh.
together and,
Well,
there's not gonna be a decision of this committee. Certainly Rick could be part of that and all the other representatives that have been
Yeah.
and by January, we'll know who the new Lewiston appointee will be and they can continue on from there.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Next, Mike, your clerk discussion.
Yep, so I know the commission adopted the meeting rules, which outline the job descriptions of the clerks and the secretary and the other positions. So I brought those forward to the water district in October, and the trustees discussed whether it was a conflict for the Auburn Water Superintendent to serve as clerk. They basically determined that there was not. Given the job description that was written, the decision that was made was that I could serve as clerk if appointed by the commission, but that if I expend time working for the commission, that we should charge for my time. I will say that has been a past practice of even what I do as secretary or as when I was assistant superintendent for the district, and now as superintendent when I spend time doing something like an inspection of the retention pond at Wilson Bluffs, or writing a letter, or in the past I had done forestry walks, my time gets charged to the commission. So that was the decision of the trustees, and I do know we do have some money allocated in the budget that goes towards that. I don't, I guess the more you use me, the more that costs, I guess, but that was their decision, so it's totally up to you from this point.
And is that true for you, Kevin, as well, that your time, that you are paid for when you do work for LawPac?
We have in the past.
Okay.
I haven't been billing because it's been either, it's prep meeting related, we haven't. It's kind of project specific or outside this type of normal operation, we would.
Okay.
because I know in the operational meetings too, like who's gonna inspect the culverts or whatever that we need to do. That's certainly a shared responsibility, and we talk about that in our operation meetings. So that's not ours that's billed to here. It's part of our water responsibilities.
Okay. So, do we need to take some action then to officially appoint you and Kevin as our clerks?
If that's the action you would like to take, and then you would probably, I can't be clerk and secretary, so you'd probably want to reassign the role of secretary. At least I wouldn't want to do.
I spoke first.
I think the way that we wrote the job descriptions is that Kevin and I would kind of share in the role of taking the, developing the minutes and the agendas, and that whoever you appointed as secretary, as a commissioner, would then just approve those and sign those.
Oh, that's perfect.
I wrote those, by the way. Great idea.
That's how it was in the past.
Yeah.
Right. How it evolved to you assigning me as secretary, I don't know. It was just when I was hired as assistant superintendent, I was told, oh, and you're going to be secretary to the commission. Okay. I just kind of went along with that, so which is fine.
Do we have an assistant to the water district? Now?
I think it would be cleaner and easier if we just if you used myself as a co-clerk, Kevin as a co-clerk, and then if you assign a commissioner as a secretary to just approve those minutes after the commission's voted, or proof those minutes, I think that would be good, not to, burden any more staff. I think would be good.
So in terms of recording and all of that?
That'll be a clerk role.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I have a question about the charging. So is that for special projects or like charging
For your time here tonight.
for your time here? Yeah, for
Right.
prep for this meeting, charging for the time at the meeting. Like
Typically,
what?
it's not typically it's not related to any of the meetings. I
Okay.
mean, Mike can correct on his latest discussion. In the past, it wasn't related to meetings, but if there was legal effort, if there
Well,
was
yeah, I can
land
see like,
procurement
Going to
effort.
inspections.
like what
project
he said about going to
inspections.
Turner,
yeah,
inspecting that. I
absolutely.
mean, I can see things like that, but I was just curious about.
Well, we didn't discuss that specifically at the meeting, but in the past, we had never charged for time attending the meetings, going to the meetings, writing the minutes. I've never charged the commission for that time.
Same here.
But if you want me to inspect Little Wilson
Right.
Pond,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
write a follow-up letter.
Yep.
If you want me to go inspect culverts, you want me to go to a forestry project,
Yep.
and I'm
Makes sense.
representing the commission at some official
That makes-
business, then we'll be conservative, but we'll bill for our, put down for 3 hours, or whatever it was.
And that's in our budget?
They doubled the budget for the municipal.
Currently this
Yeah.
year you have only 550 because in the past it's never been charged, but we're proposing 6,000 for next year.
Okay.
So I guess I asked this in general. We don't pay, Tracy
We do pay.
doesn't charge LawPac.
Yes, she does.
Yes,
Yes,
Oh, you
for
do?
the,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
big bucks.
Okay.
Big boxes, it is.
Good.
You said-
Yeah, I
Big
just,
Give herself a
I
raise.
just wanted to be consistent
Not a
that
lot.
we're,
Yeah, it is. It's under, I think, professional.
That's more of a stipend, I believe.
Right, it's
Oh,
a stipend
probably, like
under
a
Oh, nice.
financial
I
services,
like that.
1,346 a year.
And I believe Mike and I don't actually get paid.
Yeah, no,
Our-
you're not
our
paying me.
entities- Our entities get reimbursed.
Right.
Right, it reimburses the city.
Yeah, you're not
for
paying
water-
me.
no,
Right.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So that you know.
You
I thought you
don't
get
get
Kevin's
your-
like,
I get it, I
So
actually have
salary,
a
they add
stipend.
this
Oh, okay.
this out.
Okay.
So it's separate from that. I
Okay,
actually get a
all right,
stipend.
okay.
Could the
Anyway.
clerks,
Can
can
we
we
use
match
that? Can we use
the,
that?
the stipend that the treasurer gets with the clerks and
Well, I
just
guess
a little
that
bit,
would
I
be
mean,
a
it
way.
pays,
It'd
it
be-
pays a little bit, pays their power bill and stuff, and heat
You
and
mean
oil.
in lieu of charging for hours?
Well, no, they'll
No,
still,
they're
they'll still
gonna
have
get
the
that.
Oh,
hours.
so you want the stipend and the hours?
Well, I mean, they're doing just as
I
much
go that
work, if not
down.
more than Jill. I mean, they're required to be at the meetings too, and like I miss a meeting every once in a while. We all miss the meetings. Other than that, the guy that speaks the least could be the new secretary.
Well, I think that
Whoever-
probably should get reimbursed for coming to the meeting.
See what you signed up
We have
for?
run the new guy.
No,
Right?
it's
Welcome
gone.
to the team.
Right?
Well,
You gotta reimburse, I need
we
a
are going
stipend.
to discuss
That's
the
how I
budget in just a few minutes, so maybe we can defer that.
We can
until the budget.
increase that.
All right.
So we need a motion to appoint Mike and Kevin as co-clerks.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mary Ann. First by-
Nobody else is at this meeting. Just
You can do it.
I'm
She
voting.
raised it.
In discussion, can I say, as part of that motion, are you gonna then appoint somebody secretary?
Yes.
Be a
Okay.
different motion.
No, you-
Yep, no, that's fine, I just wanted to.
Yes, yep, we were following up with your preference, Mike. Any discussion regarding that? I think Heather had told me that as long as we had a co-clerk from Auburn,
Mhm.
that it was fine for Kevin to be appointed as clerk. So, any just more discussion? Let's have a vote. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous.
I make a motion to appoint Amy Lander secretary.
Second. Now let's talk about it. Alan or I on the committee already? Okay, we're out.
I think I'm like, again.
I think you are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just too slow.
Amy, would you be willing to be?
I would agree with that. We go back, guys.
Always.
Are you okay with that?
Are you?
I'm fine.
Just reviewing what.
It's okay.
As
All
long
right,
as it's
great.
what, as long as
With
it's
what they
what
write.
said, I'm all for that.
I'll send you the video.
Was there
for
a
the
second
minute.
on that?
Yeah.
I think
Dan
Dan
seconded.
seconded?
Yeah,
All those in favor of appointing Amy
Do I
as
have to vote for
secretary?
it?
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank
While
you.
we're on this topic, I just realized, so Rick was vice chair, right?
Oh, guess what, Mary?
I don't know if you want to take
Yeah, but
that.
technically, he's still a commissioner.
Yeah, yeah.
He's still a commissioner right
I think
now.
we can wait until
Yeah.
after January.
Okay,
He's still a commissioner.
okay.
Oh, you know where it is?
Yeah.
But that's a good point.
Oh.
Yeah,
He hasn't resigned.
he hasn't resigned and, yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Amy. New business. We've already introduced Brad. Do you want to say anything?
What did I get myself into?
We didn't elect you or anything yet.
I'm just really happy to be a part of the team here. it's gonna be a lot of fun and very educational.
Okay,
We'll learn a lot of stuff here. I'm happy to be here.
great.
So are you feeling Evan's not on here anymore? Is this
That's
what's happening?
correct.
Okay.
As a side note, Evan did want to attend today, and he was going to pretend he had no idea he was voted out. And he just wanted everyone to smile, and I can see people smiling now. That would have been funny, but
Yeah, he termed out, and so there was a.
He did reapply,
Application.
and Brad reapplied, but through conversations with some of the trustees, Evan has a lot on his plate right now,
Yeah,
a lot going on, and, you know, the board did vote to support moving forward with Brad.
yeah.
Are you an Auburn Water District Commissioner too?
no, he's on sewer.
I'm on the sewer.
I was gonna say, you want some other committees
Yeah.
out there, you're assuming.
Are we out?
Yes.
Okay,
Welcome.
now we're ready for the budget from Tracy and Erica.
Want to approve?
Okay, good. That was easy. Say it louder, Glenn.
Oh, she elbowed me, so I guess I can't.
Yeah, it's very small.
Just a couple things to touch on. We are requesting that Auburn and Lewiston contribute $20,000 more each. This will cover that new position, the full-time position, because it used to be a part-time position. So bringing that to full-time is an additional $40,000 a year. So we thought if we asked the two to increase their contributions, that would at least cover that part-time position going to full-time position that you guys wanted for the public.
For your job. Yeah, for your job.
So we asked both. I spoke with Kevin to see if it could be put in his budget, and I know, Mike, you brought it to your trustees.
But, you know, they've reviewed the first draft of the budget, which at that time I'd only put in a 5% increase in the Lopkett budget. This represents more than a 5% increase.
Correct.
And this will be in our draft that they review in next week, this increase. I did tell them that I know it says 5%, but I just got it. It was too late for me to get it into their packet. I said it's going to be more than that.
Yeah.
They probably won't vote on our budget till December.
But we figured increasing that would at least cover that position. Because as you can see, it does look like we're estimating to use our fund balance carry forward. In the past, we've not had to use it, but the way the expenses are going, we may touch into that $88,000 that we had budgeted last year for the fund balance carry forward to cover. And I know Erica went over with you the time bond, put in 115 for that project, as you'll notice. So that kind of brings that fund balance carry forward that we need to use higher, unless you guys decide to remove that 115. Then that would bring it down to using about 60 of the fund balance carry forward. I don't know if you guys have any questions on any of the line items for Eric or I.
I just have a general consideration. The increase, let's say it's 20,000 per water system. If that increase could go on apportionment, that would get my vote towards the budget, but I'm only one vote. Meaning, Lewiston uses 60% of the water, they pay 50% of the bill. We use 40% of the water, we pay 50% of the bill. So,
Commissions and joint events.
well, I know, I mean,
Share, so it's a nice try, but.
yeah, but
I
yeah, I've just a general consideration, but that's why I can't vote for the budget.
So, my question is in regard to the fund balance carry forward. So the budget's up substantially. It's not up just $20,000 per.
Correct. Well, that 20,000
Yeah, I
and
get-
20,000 just covers that increase.
So-
All the other lines have gone up considerably.
So next year.
due to cost.
Right, so next year, there won't be that big carry forward. The
Right.
cities would be looking at a substantially larger increase next year.
As you continue to use the fund balance for your projects,
Right.
that's what will happen. And that's why I said, we put that 115 in there, you don't have to approve that. If that's removed, then you would only be using like 65,000 of your fund balance.
Right.
But that's a decision that you would need to make, whether you want to do those projects that Erica has started to go over with you in her presentation.
And I don't comment on that. That's a big chunk of money for next year, but I don't know that every year after that is going to be that much. You know what I mean?
But you don't know it's not either.
Well,
Yeah,
some of
things
those
are-
But
things.
you don't know it's not either.
We do have
Well, I
things
think we
to
can
do, though.
plan according, sorry?
No, I.
Oh, okay. I think we can plan,
So 115 is what you think it's gonna take this year, though?
And that's just for what you talked about.
Yeah,
that from
yeah.
Whatever you call it.
yeah, which
first
is a, yeah,
first
rush,
stream,
which is,
first book.
it's a pretty big project.
Oh, yeah, no,
So just saying, it doesn't have to be that much every year for projects going forward.
But it does bring up, I mean, there are needs to be addressed,
Yeah.
and we can't just not spend money. And so we need to think about how we're gonna pay for these things. I mean, the work in the basin they outline, expensive. Townsend Brook continuing to be a problem. So, I don't wanna, I would like to know how we're thinking about the next 10 years and how we find money to pay for these things.
And what, funding sources are available for us. Like, I know the Watershed Management Plan has some EPA funding, whatever programs
Oh, yeah.
are,
Yeah.
that are
So-
out there that could help to offset some of the costs associated with these projects.
Yep, there's definitely funding available. Drinking Water Program has 2 different grants I think we've gotten every year. One's for, because one helped pay for the watershed management plan. I think it was 40,000. Usually that's a capacity development, that's usually for technical documents. Source water protection is 10 to 20,000, that's for project implementation. So we usually get those every year. So we could apply that
For this
project. Yep, and then there's larger grants, like 319 grants, which they are more involved, but they're available and they're more money. So yes, I should say like, that's the cost estimate for this project, but there's grant funding sources available. And will continue to be for, other projects we have in the future.
So kind of, this hasn't been the first capital project, but as we look at capital projects moving forward, because this would be considered a capital project in our budget. And we're kind of treating it like an operations here. And this,
No, it's down in your
It's
capital
still-
expenditures.
still be a
If you look
capital
down, it's down in your capital expenditures.
Yeah, and
That's why it's not up in your
That you
operating.
can't read.
I know that I can't read.
It's right here, 'cause I can't read it either, but I can go like this and see 115.
But it's not like we bond it though, right?
So the
No,
budget of
no,
the
no,
115 would be, could be less if we do get grant
Right.
resources to support parts of that
Right.
work.
What is the source protection management, $63,000? What's that generally cover?
Yeah, so that we have listed out, that's our boat inspections, which is a $3,500 matching grant from DEP. We have septic evaluations in there, and then other kind of smaller scale projects that come up. So, in the past, that's been stuff on Spring Road, that's been stuff at Tot Lot. So we have that money in there as well. And I think in the past, these types of projects, like the 115,000, have been in the source protection, but where this is a bigger amount of money than it has been in the past, that's why it's in capital.
Do you have an anticipated cost for the Blanchard Pond remediation? Is it 115?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what, yep. And that's the, what is it? Most probable cost or something like that. There's an acronym for that at this time, so.
So you said part of the source protection management is the septic system inspections? Do you hire that out?
So we haven't done, let me look at that, source inspection. Septic evaluation, so that's when I get a permit for a septic. from the city of Auburn. I have a third-party site evaluator, licensed site evaluator, review those. So that's more for the evaluations, that's like a permit evaluation, permit review. And they can provide me comment back, which I give back to the city or property owner.
What's the current fund balance?
Your retained earnings currently are, that is $5,615,603.41 for both your operating and your sinking.
What's 600? Where's that number on here, Tracy? It's not
That's
on.
your, that's your total retaining earnings and fund balance total together. So your retaining earnings is $2,160,7139. Your reserve for future land acquisitions is $3,455,532.
So when we did the capital project in '22, we didn't pay any more of that rate from the contributions, because I'm looking at our contributions didn't really go up. It was 60 to 60. So when we had that capital project of '92, we didn't just contribute more? We took it out of the...
What are you talking,
I'm
1992?
just looking at, should we be contributing more than 20,000 with starting to draw down on money that's going to, be below the limits that we want it to be?
Right, you're talking about your contributions for Lewiston and
right.
Auburn. That's if you guys agree upon. I mean, that's the trustees agreeing upon their budget going up, and that's the council approving their budget going up. It should go up, like I said, we did 20 each, figuring it would at least cover that, because you guys wanted to hire a full-time position. I would recommend if both sides, but like I said, that's if they approve it. We can't put our budget out there and just expect it to be approved by the water trustees and Lewiston Council.
So the reality is you're recommending a $40,000 increase.
Correct, 20 from each.
You're recommending a $40,000 increase. The funding formula that's already been agreed upon within the interlocal agreement determines that it's 20 apiece.
Correct.
Right.
So it's not a matter of,
Yeah, that's right.
you're not recommending 20 apiece, you're recommending $40,000. The funding source, the way the agreement's made determines everything else.
Right.
The interlocal agreement that created the commission dictates.
Right, it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
I don't think that's too bad of a hike for what's going on and what we're gaining out of this new budget.
Oh, I'm not sure about it. I'm pretty cool. I think she's doing a lot with it for a little bit of money. I thought it's almost that big.
Tracy, I want to ask you a question about that whole situation with the bank.
Yes, I was gonna go over that under other
Yeah,
business, but
okay,
we can,
that's fine. You don't have
we
to- you have
can
to
touch
bring it
upon
up.
it now if you want. I did receive, and I didn't send out an email because I knew we were having a meeting. I did receive 10,000 from our insurance. I received that check. I still have not heard. I call weekly. I call KeyBank weekly. The upper, not the banks that are located in Lewiston and Auburn. And I always get, for the most part, I actually got her today. For the most part, they're always like, she's busy. And then she never calls me back. So I have talked to her today about the fact that this is unreasonable and that I would like to speak to her supervisor. And they said she would not speak to me. She is my direct contact. This Tara girl is my direct contact, and that's all. I said, I've sent out emails to 2 of the high up people in Key Bank, 'cause I got their names off of the website, but no emails. So I just took an email I had from another individual and figured it out, sent them off. They will not respond to me. I've asked her for, because they have to have a board. So I've asked her for boards, and they just will not give you any information whatsoever. I'm pretty disgusted. So I had removed one of the accounts and brought it over to another bank that's secure, to start paying bills, because the city of Lewiston was paying it. We were putting it into a balance sheet account so that we kept track of what we were paying. So I went and closed out the smaller account and moved that over and have been paying from that. I was going to have a discussion with you guys on how long do you want me to wait to keep the other money in Key Bank. I mean, I've been holding it there in hopes that they would reimburse us at least the $19,000 that we didn't get from the insurance. I'd like to see the full, and then we could turn back and give the insurance back the $10,000. But I have gotten nowhere, and I don't know if people know anybody higher up in Key Bank, a contact that I can call, because if you Google, there's like no phone numbers, there's no emails, there's no, I just don't understand for a bank
That's how everything is now.
that there's
Don't
no
we
way.
have, like,
You can't
I
get in
don't
touch with
know,
anybody.
what's, like, a committee, don't they have, like, you're saying a board?
They have to
but
have
I
a
thought
board.
they
They're
had
a
to have,
bank.
Like, what, I wanna call it
Incorporated.
advisory committee or, like the
Incorporated.
people that come in every year and you get your statements that say, okay, we bought into this, or we looked at this, what do they call those? Committee?
Incorporators.
Have
Those
they ever,
people.
have they ever said to you, we're not
No,
looking into
they
it?
they
we're
still
not-"
they said they're looking into it, and I
And
said
that's it?
this has been since July,
I would take a
Yeah.
look.
the beginning of July. I go, how long does it take
Right,
to make a decision?
right.
I said it's a 3-page document, because I sent my FBI, the thing I submitted to the FBI and everything. I said it's a 3-page document. Shouldn't take that long to review and decide where you're gonna go with this.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm pretty disgusted that nobody, like I said, she wouldn't give me any names. And she told me the people that I emailed won't respond to me because she's my contact. And I told her today it's very poor customer service on behalf of Key Bank, that you are not allowed to give me a name or an email or phone number for me to talk to somebody else.
But she can't give you an answer. So
No.
what is her answer? I'm
Right.
your contact, but I have no answer for you?
Right. She has no update. And like I said, most of the time when I call her, it's
won't
always
answer.
whoever answers the phone will say, yeah, let me check and see if she's there. And then she comes back and says, she's not available, she'll get back to you. And then she never does.
I'd say get the money out of that bank.
Do we need a legal correspondence, just one little well-written
Yeah,
letter?
maybe
I
just a
think
letter.
the lawyer should be sending something.
Yeah,
It's time to move to lawyers. And I'll be asking for more than 19,000.
Right.
Do we have lawyers for the commission?
Grady Burns.
Yeah,
Let's see what it is.
give him his first.
yeah, I think we should have Grady write them a letter.
Saying that we're gonna file suit if we don't have to.
You okay with Grady asking you 100 questions? Or?
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I have all the documents. I
Yeah.
mean, I had to
We need
submit
to-
everything to the FBI.
Yeah.
So I have all the documents of everything.
I'll email
I submitted.
Grady this, and I'll copy you and Tracy,
Yeah.
and just point Grady to contact you to get the details.
Yep.
Right.
And he
then
can draft a letter to
probably
bounce off
advise-
you folks.
He
and-
can
Yeah, when
probably
to take
advise
money
what
out
the
of
next
there,
step
yeah.
is, like,
Yeah.
okay, I can write a letter that says this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what we would want to know from
Did
him.
you send
What's
the,
our next
did you
step?
send the email to Chris Gorman? That he sent it to,
For,
for Key Bank?
no, I sent it to higher up. I went online.
Chris is-
I sent it to Angela Mago,
Mhm.
and I sent it to James Walter. So they have like their names of who is high up and what they do and everything, but they have no contact information, they have no emails, they have no phone number.
Grady will send it to the registered clerk for the corporation,
Right.
so it'll get the attention of the seniors.
But wouldn't we wanna just leave a small amount of money in there to have an account open, but take our town money out of it?
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm just thinking common sense, I don't know what the
Yeah.
lawyer would say, but just keep something open so that you are a customer.
Can we overdraw it 29,000? No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I haven't even touched, it's still locked. I have it locked. I can't even, like, when I went and did the other account to withdraw it and have them give me a bank check so I could keep track of it and go deposit it into the other bank, they had to unlock it before I had to go into the key
How much
bank and
money do
unlock.
we have in this account? Just
There
roughly.
is, let's see, 260,000, I believe, in there. 260,000.
Should we
To
talk
talk
to
to
the
the lawyer
attorney
first,
first?
talk
and
to
then
the attorney
decide?
first.
Yeah, let's do
Right.
that.
Ask him to say, should we
Yeah,
just keep enough in there to keep the account open and,
yeah.
have your,
I have one account.
Yeah. Thank you for all of your work. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I'd
know.
like this to get off your plate,
It's
so.
just frustrating that
Oh,
you
yeah,
can't
no.
That's okay, she gets a stipend.
get to talk to him. It's so funny.
Sorry.
So getting back to the budget,
back to the budget, do we need to make a motion to approve it?
can we approve it without knowing whether we're gonna get
Yeah, the
Auburn
addition,
Water
right,
District,
and
Lewiston
I think our budget is
Approve
always
it
pending.
contingent.
approval?
Oh, yeah.
Approve
Approve
it
it
contingent on,
or
Well, we approve it.
And then we'd have to come back and adjust
If it doesn't get funded, it doesn't get funded.
okay,
Right, if they don't approve it at that point, you guys would have to adjust yours.
Yeah.
We'd have to look at expenses and,
yeah, okay.
Can we increase that stipend, though, if we're gonna, for the clerks?
No,
we did put the 6,000,
support them.
We increased.
Erica
it.
did increase it to 6,000 from the 550. So if you guys decide to do a stipend, it could ultimately come out of that 6,000. You'd have to
Yeah.
decide what you want for Mike and Kevin.
But what's your stipend?
$1,634 a year, I think.
I think we move all three stipends to $2,000 is what I'm hoping.
1,346.
I don't know.
And
That
then
would
they-
just- Or
and then they-
1,500.
So if we
this year.
budgeted 6,000 and that comes out, what is the budget for them to do other projects?
It went
Services.
from 6 to 12.
Oh, from
Six
6
additional.
to 12.
Yeah,
Mm.
I think.
And it would, so we would do a stipend and then the remaining money would be used to
Plow
support,
the roads and whatever, sweeping, walk around with mowing.
but in additional stuff like Mike talked about, inspection, things, that.
Right, yeah. So that it does. come with it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, it's not gonna drown us if it's 1,500 times 3, right, for these three right here.
An extra 12,000.
Well, Tracy, yours isn't in
I'm
that executive
fine.
administration.
It's
is
in
it?
it's in the bottom one. It's in the
Audit financials.
audit and financial services. So that went up a little bit this year because the annual audit will be going up a little bit. I had called RKO and got an estimate of what they're gonna increase it.
Just a friendly motion, I don't know if we can just do that and then, or should I make a motion to approve the budget pending that? It'd be pretty sad that I would abstain from the vote because I'm still upset about cost apportionment. But, is someone else making
But
that
this isn't
motion?
this isn't a vote about cost apportionment. That
I'll
was
second
decided
it.
100 years ago.
Uh,
You can't change it now. Go back and renegotiate the local.
That's happening, right?
Make a motion?
No, he's not.
I know they can.
I'm making a motion as, I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented, and we can have further discussions about stipends later. It's in the budget, if we want to use it.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion by Mary Ann, seconded by Amy to approve the budget. Open for discussion.
think.
So it just has to be a future agenda item based on what you're
Yeah.
doing?
And it's in the, making sure the budget's all approved by the cities. We get 6 months. Budget's not even approved until July 1.
Before July 1.
But I personally feel
Way
like
before July
Tracy
1.
is part of the
They
job.
better be.
Tracy's coming in from, I think it's different between the 2 co-clerks and the treasurer. Tracy has nothing to do with this commission. This is their job,
I know.
just like we have, salary jobs. So
Right.
I don't feel like it's necessary to have a stipend for the co-clerks, where Tracy is in a different category.
Trying to remember.
She's coming in as a consultant, would hire some outside person to be our bookkeeper if we didn't have that.
Mike, did we put the commission back into the job description? We haven't even done that yet, have we?
It is not in the superintendent's job description
It was actually
that you
specifically
have to
removed.
serve as clerk. It doesn't say I have to.
So
She accepted the
he's like,
bylaws.
yeah, so he's just like Jill. He's not required to be here
Tracy?
by the water district.
But it is in his,
No, it's not. It's no longer in this job description.
I disagree with you and we can discuss this later.
Sounds like bourbon.
Because we still have it in the budget. We
Anyway,
can put it on the February agenda.
Okay, we have a motion.
it's good that we increased the outside services.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
definitely.
doubled
I mean,
We doubled
it's
it to pay
from
in for the
550 to
hours
6,000
outside.
for
Yeah,
work they can charge us for, so hopefully that will be beneficial. So, other discussion? So the motion is to approve the budget as presented, with, hopefully it will be passed, by the increases, so. All those in favor of the budget proposal? All those opposed? All right, 6 to 1. Thank you. Thank you, Tracy and Erica, for working on the budget. Appreciate that. Okay, now, scrolling up. Thank you. Graceland Pit, Watershed work update.
So that was one of the other handouts that I had for you guys. It's a copy of the additional work that was proposed by CDM Smith if we wanted to investigate the Graceland pit further and potentially move the watershed boundary closer to the lake. So the commission, we did not agree to take on that work.
Right.
We went with the drinking water program's proposed line, and their drinking water program is on board with that watershed line. Mike Gatto has come a couple of times to present to us about a couple different things, so I think you know who he is now. He's been in touch with Mike and Kevin and myself. He is representing Gendron, who is the owner of the pit, and he's talked to me about, and again Mike and Kevin, we've all kind of talked about this. What he's interested in doing is having CDM Smith carry out that additional work that they proposed. Let me find my copy. So it's further site investigations, hydrogeology investigation, digging some wells, drilling, geophysical information, survey information. That was all spelled out to cost $140,000. So Gendron is interested in having that work done, and me and Mike and Kevin wanted to talk to the board about was how do we go about doing that? Because if Gendron hires CDM Smith to do the work themselves, that kind of leaves the commission out of it, and we would like to be a part of that. So one option is the commission can hire CDM Smith to do that work, but Gendron pays upfront for it. And so they're willing to pay for the work, and that scenario probably would work best. because CDM is still working for the commission. They're not working independently for gender, and they're still working for this group. We would have oversight of the work. We can make sure that the scope covers everything that we want to see done. And if Gendron were to pay for that up front, it would not get into us paying for it and then seeking reimbursement. So that's kind of the approach that we as staff came up with, I think would be best, but of course the commission would need to agree to that. And kind of a couple terms of that is that there would be a signed agreement between the commission and Gendron to have that money up front, and then also an agreement between the commission and CDM Smith on exactly the scope of work. So we would need those agreements done first before any work is done. And Mike Gatto was interested in having a site meeting at the pit with me and Kevin and Mike and I believe some people from the city of Auburn and a representative for Gendron. He was looking to have that meeting next Tuesday with all of us on site there. But I said I need to bring this to the board first to figure out what you think would work best and if you were in agreement to.
I make a motion to authorize the staff and chair to execute any documents needed to create an agreement between CDM Smith, the commission, and Gendron to execute $140,000 worth of work on this site.
I'll second that discussion.
So, open for discussion.
I have a question of whether the drinking water program has already approved these means and methods to judging whether that line can be moved. Like, have they seen that? Because that's the ultimate one, reviewing this. And I didn't see anything in there about the drinking water reviewing this after it's done. It's just not the fact. Whatever comes out of it, comes out of it, but it still needs to get reviewed by the drinking water.
They didn't see this particular
That's the
document, but this document was created based off from the information the drinking water program supplied on what they wanted.
Said,
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
basically this is what they said they would need to know
Right,
to change that
to
boundary
answer
further.
the questions. Right.
Yeah.
I have a question about why can't we be the oversight agency without hiring directly CDM Smith? Because when I worked for the state, I oversaw other contractors doing the work, and I did not have to hire and do the scope of work. I just reviewed all of that. And I don't see how we are a different entity.
Who owned the end product?
The client did.
Right, not the state.
Right.
Do we want to own the product or do we not own the product?
Why, we've already paid to have our work done, and we said we did not want to do this work, so why would we want to now hire them to do the additional work? Even though someone else is paying for it, the perception is we are hiring CDM Smith to do this additional work.
In the end, if this additional work gets done, we need to own and accept that and submit that information to the state for further redelineation of the watershed boundary.
That's fine. That's why I'm asking.
Right.
Why can't we still be the oversight body once the work is done?
We can oversee it, but we can't own it.
Huh?
We won't own it.
I didn't own it for the state either. But I still had to give my approval of it.
I'm just saying, what I'm hearing from the staff is that they feel it's important that we have ownership of this so we can submit it to the state for approval versus the private entity.
Why
Kevin
would
and
it make a difference?
Kevin and I talked about this last night. We just thought it was a conflict of interest where CDM Smith has been our representative, our consultant. If then this consultant, this private owner hires them to do work, and we wouldn't, maybe we could ask to be a part of that process, but how would we require that we're a part of it? And in the end, if they wind up doing this work and when we didn't feel like we had enough input, are we then going to have to hire a third-party person to then say, well, because we weren't part of that, that's just, I don't know, we mulled around that last night trying to figure out how how would we do this? How would this work? And I don't know. The state has certain authorities that we don't have.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I would think it's not that we don't wanna do the work, we don't wanna pay for
Right.
it, right? So like,
Oh, I
Right.
don't necessarily want to do the work.
to get it to move.
Huh?
Yeah,
I
I see
mean,
what you're saying.
anyway, do we want to, have all that additional work done? We decided.
So
We didn't wanna
they
pay
can
for it.
move
We didn't
and
wanna-
do what they want to do.
So in light of not wanting to pay for it, I would be in favor of the motion if Erica and Mike and Kevin could come up with maybe just a general amount, let's say $5,000 of staff time, and we make it 145 in advance, and just in the matter of cooperation with the ad hoc committee, because a lot of this probably went through the ad hoc. I'm not a part of it, so I don't know.
No.
Not this. No.
So I think to Camille's point, it's about, do we care or want the line to move? Or are we fine with, hey, right, so if we're hiring them, it looks as if we're supporting that, right? Versus, if you wanna do it, you wanna do the work behind it, I guess I'm just trying to see all
I
of
think
the
that-
sides of this.
I agree with what was said, that if somebody else pays to do this work, and we don't wanna move the line, and all the facts say it should move, and it goes to the state, and the state says, yeah, we agree that it should move, then we're gonna have to pay somebody to prove that they're wrong, or we're gonna have to just agree with it blindly. But this way we have input, our staff's involved,
We'll
and we get to
do
be.
We'll do what's fair.
It limits our expense.
What the data says, we'll do what's fair.
Okay.
I think the tough part for this board, in my opinion, has been, it was never, there were no bylaws or anything set up to be able to change boundaries. And the state, it's not a normal occurrence. We're in new territory. What we just went through with this boundary change, this is kind of where Mike and I and Erica kind of talked about it, of the scenarios of being able to support good data and be a part of it. This seemed like the least expensive, the least time, and not get in this vicious loop of talk to the state, talk to the developer, talk to our consultant, and then back through. So there were a lot of discussions that were had over the last 2 years that, in my opinion, it seems like it could be a workable option versus what we just went through. But like I said, new territory, if somebody has another idea, a better way, I'm not saying this is the only way. So that's just our recommendation on what we've seen.
I really hope that you do this work and it comes back that, no, you can't move the line because it impacts the watershed. Okay, great. You can stop all future requests. We've proven through this work, it's in the watershed, you can't move the boundary. If there's some more that it can be moved, okay. But if you don't do anything, they're gonna keep pounding at the door because we've outlined an area of uncertainty.
Right.
And having something uncertain is always gonna open the opportunity to they're gonna keep pushing.
And they'll keep digging the hole too.
Right.
Thanks for thinking it all through.
So you have a motion, right?
We have
I made a
motion,
motion,
yeah,
and a second?
and a
So we have
second.
a second.
Any more
So
discussion?
there was a friendly amendment for an extra 5 or 10 grand.
I'll make that a friendly amendment for an
For
extra
what?
$5,000 to
Well,
Staff
cover
time.
staff
Oh, it's
Our
part of
stuff.
the-
for LawPEX funds,
yeah,
to go to LawPEC, and then you guys can
to cover
determine.
your expenses regarding this.
So we gotta go to a site walk next Tuesday.
Exactly.
There you go.
We're gonna have to go to
Charge-
meetings, we're gonna have to.
Right. I agree, yeah.
Okay. I'll second it.
Second friendly amendment?
So, do we approve the amendment, or
So
first,
can
or how do we do
I,
it?
just to,
Yes.
Discussion.
Glenn had an amount, 140. Erica mentioned that the final scope or whatever hadn't been, I mean, is that a good number, or can
I
that
think it
number
is,
change?
yeah, this was put together June of this year, so.
So can we say like not to exceed?
Well, I mean, honestly, that number could be, I'm comfortable with 200 grand. It's their money,
Right, true.
right? So to me, it's like, that number was just, the number was on the piece of paper in front of me, that's why I used it. But I mean, if they're gonna have to pay, because if anything comes up as this goes forward, they're gonna have to pay more.
Right, if there's
Right,
a change
right.
order.
I
or
just
Right.
think,
So do
We
we need
should-
to say a number, or do
I
we
don't-
just say?
yeah, maybe we should just say a number that CDM Smith determines is appropriate for the scope
Plus,
of work,
plus an additional
plus the additional
20%.
whatever.
I'll second that friendly amendment.
How about this? How about if I rescind my motion?
Yes, do that.
And the second is rescinded?
Rescind.
Okay, so now it's time to scratch.
Oh, boy.
What motion, what would,
Rescinded
just
motion.
make, oh, you just cross it out, it never happened.
Yep. Done.
Start over.
I'll make a motion to authorize staff and the chair to execute any documents necessary to create a contract between CDM Smith, Gendron, and the commission to execute the study as outlined and any additional funds needed based on CDM's recommendation to include a minimum of $5,000 for staff.
Commission staff. Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. All right, thank you. I'll just say I'm not against having more data and all. It's just, you know, I feel like we've been put in a situation that we didn't choose to begin with. That's all.
That's right, well.
All right, other business. Is there anything else we needed to discuss?
Meeting dates.
Meeting.
Yeah, what's our December
Meeting date.
tentative workshop meeting date?
Oh, yeah.
Need that.
That was always held as if
For the budget.
if the
For the
budget
budget
didn't
as
pass.
needed.
But we did the budget,
But we will
Right.
know that anyway until,
because we have a great budget.
yeah. So the, the discussion would be, do we feel like we want to meet, set a tentative date in January to meet? And not meet
We could just
in
do a couple
December?
months in advance. Yeah, just, that way there are the, on the off months, if we have to meet, we have a date.
So
So
it's
can
basically
we-
January, March, May,
In October,
So
and October.
still have the summer off.
So I
Yeah.
think we should keep these as, these are the dates.
Those are the meeting dates.
And then we can put tentative, like, for other ones,
Right.
so that we know, yes, we are meeting these
But it'll be on the
things.
same day of the month and the same
Right, so we'll
time.
call them tentative, and
So-
then the chair will let us know.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
But
chair
those
has,
are the, these
So
are
yeah,
the
January,
standing
March,
dates.
May, and October,
and the chair has the authority to set that
pretty
by
much.
March,
FIA.
May, and October.
October, yeah.
Okay.
Those are added as tentative workshop dates.
Not
Yes.
workshops, just meeting dates, because then if we
Tentative
needed to
meeting
vote on
dates.
something, we
Yeah.
could vote.
As needed, just like the
Yeah.
December
So
one.
that's just what do we say, second one?
Yeah, the second Wednesday.
Well, whatever it is. I just
So
said,
do you
but
wanna know those dates?
So you don't have
January.
meetings in July or
So
August?
that would be
No.
January
Okay.
10th,
January 10th,
March
Keep it that way,
13th,
okay.
May 8th,
May 8th,
October 9th.
October 9th. Okay.
what you do.
Those are the tentative dates.
What was the March
13th.
one?
13.
13? Thank you. And then May was,
8th
8th.
and October 9th.
I got that one, thank you.
And you're decreeing those
Do
by,
we need to,
you're the chair, that's a fee, you can
I
decree
can
those.
decree those.
You
All
can.
right, I've decreed those.
You set the
That's it.
Chairman set the
And
meetings.
Erica and Mike and Kevin and I will let you know at least a week ahead whether that's needed.
A week?
You need more than that?
No, it's fine.
Maybe.
Hey, just think, then you'll have it blocked off.
But it sounds like we don't need the December.
That's right.
That's
Then you'll
good.
have free
Then you'll
time.
have
People in
free
the
time.
office, I gotta go to the
I
office.
have
I don't
Was
think
on
we
my
need the
calendar.
December
They
4th meeting.
No, no. I had one other
You wanna
business
mean-
of just
Okay.
kind of getting a summary, maybe in February, of the education program, like
Yeah.
what that is, like a one page or something, or infographic, whatever you want to do. But something that kind of highlights what you've been doing for the year, because
Along with the tributary reports.
Yeah.
I see,
Oh, that
I see the
day.
newsletter, but that's about it, you know, something that just gives a summary for the year, and then that can be done.
Yeah.
annually.
Or like a work plan, sort of, like.
Yeah.
You got that on the agenda?
Thank you.
Pass your time. Your name's down.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
And,
I'd like to make a
the
motion
data
to
for the
adjourn.
tribute
Second.
you'll have by then
I
too.
beat you.
She did.
Yes, okay.
You can call the vote.
Pardon?
You can call the vote.
Oh,
There's a motion to adjourn in a second over there.
sorry. I was still discussing.
You were working.
things. I was working. All right, all those in favor of the,
Thank you.
all right, thank you all.
Yeah.